Hello coders and programmers, maayong adlaw. This will be the last part of our module on lists. So part 3 ni siya. Ang atong i-discuss karon is about how to slice lists and how to use those sliced lists, and also a brief introduction on tuples. Okay, so listen up. In Python, working with only specific elements inside a list is called slicing or slicing that list. Look at the set of codes that I've created. Tanaw sa line number 1. I've created a list with a variable named classmates with the elements Andrea, Ben, Chuck, Daniel, Elizabeth, and Francine. So line number 2, iprint ako ang classmates. Then, kita ninyo, iwas tanan. And then, notice line number 4. No? Print classmates bracket from 0 to 2. Remember nga ang elements sa list are indexed or numbered starting from 0. So, kana akong list of classmates, si Andrea ang 0, si Ben ang 1, si Chuck ang 2, si Daniel ang 3, Elizabeth ang 4, and si Francine ang 5. Although 6 items na sila. So, if i-print na ko classmates from 0 to 2, as expected, ang mugawas lang is si Andrea and si Ben. Si Andrea ang 0, si Ben ang 1. Mustop siya kay Chuck, but dili niya i-appeal sa Chuck. The same bitaw sa atong topic or lesson gahapon sa range, paggamit sa range nga function. Kung unsa ang last na argument sa range, dito siya mag-stop pero dili niya i-appeal. That's why, if i-print ato ang classmates from 0 to 2, only 0 and 1 ang magawas. Hence, nasa shell si Andrea and Ben. Look at line number 6. Print classmates bracket from 1 to 5. Meaning, asa man magsugod si Python og tan-aw sa element number, index number 1. Which is si Ben, no? Kay 0 man na si Andrea. So, from 1 to 5, Ben, Chuck, Daniel, Elizabeth, og Francine. But si Francine, ang index number 5, dili niya i-appeal. That's why, ang naka-print lang is from Ben to Elizabeth only. Sa line number 8 sad, classmates from 5 to 6. Nabada itay element number 6 ang index. Di ba wala na? Kay Andrea, Ben, Chuck, Daniel, Elizabeth, Francine naman. So, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Element number 5 mo na si, or element with index number 5 mo na si Francine. So, if mo nang akong code, line number 8, from 5 to 6, wala naman ng 6. So, ang iyalang ibutang, or iyalang i-output is only Francine, which is element with index number 5. Okay? So, this is how we slice lists, no? So, yun lang. Mara siya katong paggamit sa function na range. Na idwa ka arguments. Ang first argument is asa mag-start nga index number. So, dili element number ha, index number. And ang second argument is asa mag-end without including kung asa mag-end. So, maura ba ni ang ways to slice lists? So, no, there are other ways pa. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So if you look at the set of codes that I've created, daghan di ay ways kung saan ako mag-slice ang isa ka list. No? So again, gidefine ako sa line number 1 ang akong list of classmates. Sa line number 2, notice, print classmates blank colon 4. No? So before sa colon, walay number. But ang last number lang akong ibutang, which is 4. So, ang meaning ana, mag-start from the very beginning until element with index number 4, which is si 0 si Andrea, 2 si Ben, 3 si Chuck. 0 si Andrea, 1 si Ben, 2 si Chuck, 3 si Daniel, 4 si Elizabeth. So, from the beginning until Elizabeth, but not included si Elizabeth. That's why ang output is Andrea, Ben, Chuck, Daniel lang. So, look at line number 4. print classmates from 2 colon empty, no? Or blank. So, ang meaning ana, from element with index number 2 until the very last na element sa kanang list. So, kinsa man ang name sa classmate nato sa list nga na ay index number 2. 0 si Andrea, 1 si Ben, 2 si Chuck. So, starting from Chuck until the very end, until mahulot ang list. For which, nasa output, Chuck, Daniel, Elizabeth, and Francine. Last line, line number 6. Print classmates from -2 to blank. So, what does that mean? That only means nga, I want for my output, mag-start ko from the second to the last nga element until the very last. Okay? So, kinsa man ang second to the last nga name sa classmates na list? Si Elizabeth. Until mahuman. Second to the last naman siya. So, ang last is si Francine. That's why ang output is only si Elizabeth and Francine. So, that is how we slice lists starting from the very last. We use a negative number. So, if akong gibutang diha, print classmates -4 colon. So, dito siya magsugod sa fourth element gikan sa kinatumian, okay, or fourth to the last element. I hope that's clear, okay? So we could also loop a sliced portion of a list just like a normal list. So kaning akong set of codes dili, this is very understandable kay the same naman ni sa kung sa atong na-discuss gahapon, but ang only difference is ang ma-output sa for loop is only a part of the list or ang sliced lang nga portion. So, observe, starting from line number 3, for classmate name in classmates, ang classmate underscore name is the variable nga akong i-assign para gamiton ni for loop. So, for classmate underscore name in classmates, blank colon 3, what does that mean? Kung colon 3 lang, meaning from the very beginning until the element with index number 3. Okay? So, kinsa man ang name dito sa list na ako nga na index number 3. 0 si Andrea, 1 si Ben, 2 si Chuck, 3 si Daniel. So, if i-print na ni Python after sa for loop, magsugod kay Andrea, next si Ben, and mag-stop siya, next si Chuck, and then mag-stop siya kay Daniel, nga dili niya i-appel si Daniel. That's why, if i-run ako nga code, kita ninyo, these are the names of my first 3 classmates on the list. Andrea Del Rosario, Ben Ten, and Chuck Taylor. Another very useful concept in Python is copying from an existing list. So we may want to start with an existing list and make an entirely new list based on the first one. So let's explore how copying a list works and examine one situation in which copying a list is useful. So try to imagine this set of codes that I've created is part of an enrollment system. Okay, so balik na po ito sa enrollment system nga illustration. So ang line number 1, ESC 12, is a list of 3 names, Andrea, Ben, and Chuck Taylor. Line number 2, I've created a new variable name for my list, which is Cook 101. So imagine nga, lahat na po nga subject. But na timingan nga, ang nag-enroll sa akong Cook 101 nga class is the same name sa ESC 12 nga class. So how do I copy or create an entirely new list from an existing one? I just define Cook 101 equal to ESC 12 bracket colon bracket. So ingan ang pag-copy o gikan sa karaan nga list padulong sa bag-o nga list. Okay, in this case ang karaan nga list is ESC 12, ang new list is si Cook 101. So from lines 4 to 10, no, I think that's pretty understandable. Print, these are the students enrolled in Sir Dale's programming class for name underscore ESC12 in ESC12, print name ESC12 title, blank. Print, these are the students enrolled in Sir Dale's cooking class. For name underscore cook 101 in cook 101, print name cook 101 the title. So if i-run na to ni, you'd see that we have two different lists. Ang first part is ang kato naka-enroll sa ESC12 programming, and ang ikaduha is ang naka-enroll sa cooking 101 na class. Okay? So how do we know if si Python nagbuhat yun siya duha ka list nga bag-o? Dili ba ta makaingon nga igo naman niya gi-flash pod ang ESC12, no? Igo na niya gigamit. Okay? So sa next slide makita nato nga si Python day mismo nagbuhat gid siya bag-o nga list for the cook 101 nga variable. So this is the same set of codes that I've used from the previous slide, but akong ginuwagan. So nag-start ta karon sa line number 12. Okay? Look at line number 12. ESC 12.append. What does append mean again? Append is if mag-add ta og new entry to an existing list. Okay? So ESC 12.append Daniel Bryan. No? So kung may tabuan na. No? Logically, ma-add si Daniel Bryan sa list of ESC 12. Okay? Line of code number 13. Cook 101.append Daniel Matsunaga. So, babae ni siya nga Daniel Matsunaga. Daniel man ang spelling sa yung name. Anyway, Cook 101.append Daniel Matsunaga. So, ma-add, no? Or ma-append si Daniel Matsunaga sa Cook 101 na list. Hence, from line number 15 up to line number 21, these are the updated list of students. So, if ato ning iran, i-observe ninyo na lahi na, no, different ang list sa programming class and different ang list sa cooking class. Although classmates si Andrea, si Ben, ug si Chuck sa programming ug sa cooking, pero si Daniel Bryan naalang siya sa programming and si Daniel Matsunaga naara siya sa cooking class. No? So, dili na ito na-prove na si Python kay nag-create og two different lists. Lahi gid ang list nga ESC12 and lahi pod ang list nga Cook 101. So, as a form of experimental exercise, try to create your own set of codes just like this one. And sulay nga ang line number 2 ninyo wala ng bracket, colon, bracket. So, atong gi-define nga ang first list is equal to the second list lang. Okay? And see what happens. Okay, the last concept for this module. The last but, of course, certainly equally important one, tuple. So, a tuple looks just like a list, except you use parentheses instead of square brackets. Once you define a tuple, you can access individual elements by using each item's index, just as you would a list. So, ato ma-observe later nga ang tuple and list, exactly the same lang gid sila og operation, except that ang pag-define sa tuple, magamit tag parentheses, sa list kay brackets, as we've done before. The difference between normal lists and tuples is that tuples are immutable. So, something immutable, while lists are not. That is, tuples cannot be modified once defined. So, another difference between tuple and list is that tuples cannot be changed, no? Dili mabag-o, dili ma-modify, so immutable. When compared with lists, tuples are simple data structures. Use them when we want to store a set of values that should not be changed throughout the life of a program. So, it's as if saying nga define ta og a set or a list of constants, no? So, we could look at it that way. So, we have here two sets of codes. One is illustrating a list and another is illustrating tuples. So, ang first part, medyo review na lang na siya sa atong na cover before, that's how we modify lists. So, mag-work siya perfectly. Notice the second part. Kablo nga tuple ang akong gi-define because, look at line number 1 sa second part ha, line number 1 sa second part. Lot area underscore dimensions is equal to parenthesis 12, 19. Sa taas kay bracket 12, 19 man. Sa silong, parenthesis 12, 19. So, si Python, makablo siya nga tuple na siya nga variable or nga list, I mean. So, starting from line number 8 on the second part, that's how I modify lists, di ba? Yan naman ito mag-modify a list. Pero that will not work with tuples because, again, tuples are unchangeable or immutable. So, na-error ni gawas. Here are the new dimension errors nasa shell. File, string, line 8, type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. Okay. So, once na-define na to si tuple sa line number 1, dili mag-work ang modifications na to sa line number 8 and line number 19. So, if akong i-change si index 0 ug 13 ug index 1 ug 20, so kibali i-change lugar na ko si 12 to 13, from 12 to 13 and 19 to 20, dili siya mag-work because, again, tuple siya. So, a reminder, while lists are defined using brackets, tuples are defined using parentheses. But another feature of tuples is that important sa tuple ang comma. So, lists with one element, 1, can be defined as bracket 1 bracket. But sa tuples are defined with parentheses, comma, parentheses. Okay? So, look at the set of codes. My list, bracket 1. So, Python knows nga, normal list na siya. Print my list, index 0, print, space. Line number 5, my tuple, parentheses, 1, comma, parentheses. Print my tuple, index 0, print. So, the same as like output, 1. No? But, dili na ni siya ma-change si my tuple. Si my list, pwede pa naman lisdan, pwede pa naman dugangan, but si my tuple dili. If mo tanata anong important ang comma sa tuple, that's how Python designers intended, no, for tuple to work. Karon, what if gusto gyud nako pulihan ang sulod sa akong tuple? Again, that would be impossible. Dili na ma-change ang elements. So, ang mitigation ana, why not we'll create a new tuple with the same name. So, malabitaw nag-assign lang taong new variables to sa kana nga name sa tuple. So, although we cannot actually change the elements in a tuple and yet we really want to have new elements for that tuple, we can always assign completely new elements to that same tuple. So, observe my set of codes from 1 to 4. Okay? My old tuple is equal to 3, 8, 11. So, gamit kong for loop para ipang-print niya ang mga elements, 3, 8, and 11. Now, starting from line 6, akong redefine. So, ingana na lang ang atong buhaton if gusto ginatupulihan ang tuple. Si my old tuple, instead of 3, 8, and 11, ako na lang siyang pulihan og 2, 9, and 10. No? So, ang hassle lang ani is, if daghan og elements ang original ni mga tuple, then gusto niyo mo pulihan to tanan, i-encode yun tanan isa-isa. No? So, unlike sa list nga pwede na i-append, pwede na i-change or i-insertan, kani is dili. Magbuhat yun tag completely new tuple. Bahalag bag-o pa na iyang, or bahalag the same pa nga name atong gamit sa iyaha. So that's one ultimate purpose of tuples, for us to define a rigid and unchanging constant in Python. Okay? So that's it. No? This is the end of our module on lists. I hope na learn. And I hope ma-apply na to ni tanan sa whatever engineering problem solving that we want to tackle in the future.